Hi everyone, this is U.S. immigration lawyer Michael Ashoori, and in today's video I want to talk about how to get an employer-sponsored green card. So as many of you may know, there are ways for somebody to qualify for a green card based on getting a job offer from a U.S. employer. Now, it sounds easy, there's actually a lot of steps involved. So for purposes of this video, I kind of want to give you an idea of the steps involved, what's required, and hopefully you guys find this very valuable. So with that said, let's get started. There's basically three main steps in getting an employer-sponsored green card. The first step is called the Perm labor certification. The second step is the Immigrant Petition. And the third step is either doing an adjustment of status if you're in the United States or doing immigrant visa processing if you're outside of the United States. Now let's kind of go into what each of those steps requires. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the Perm labor certification. Okay, so now let's say you have a job offer from a US company. That company now has to get a labor certification from the Department of Labor. And in order to get, and basically the idea behind the labor certification is that the US has policy interests in protecting US workers. And so there's a few steps that the employer has to do in terms of recruiting and attempting to hire a US worker before they can sponsor a foreign worker. And the way that the employer proves that they've done all of this stuff and they've handled the entire process fairly and they've followed all the protocols is through getting a labor certification through the Perm process. And basically, what happens is that first, the employer makes a request for a prevailing wage determination. And basically what this means is that, as I mentioned, the US has policy interests in preventing US employers from hiring foreign workers and paying them much less than what US workers would make for whatever position they would be working in. So what the US employer has to do is they have to basically specify what position they're hiring for, what level of experience they're looking for, and they make a prevailing wage request to the Department of Labor to get back what the appropriate wage is for that position. So what they're doing is they're asking to get a determination from the Department of Labor as to what is the appropriate wage for this position with this level of experience. That's known as the prevailing wage request. After a number of months, the Department of Labor will come back with a prevailing wage determination. The prevailing wage determination is what the Department of Labor deems to be the appropriate wage for that position. Now, once the employer gets that, what the prevailing wage is, the employer has to at least offer that amount to the foreign worker that they're going to be sponsoring. At least that amount or more. They cannot offer less than that amount. In addition, it's important to know that the US employer must be able to document that they at least have that amount available to pay the foreign worker. So they're going to have to be able to prove that they have the ability to pay the prevailing wage. So that's just a side note. Now, as part of the Perm process, the employer has to undertake certain actions to show that they attempted to hire a US worker. So they undertake various recruitment efforts, posting job ads in newspapers, and so on and so forth. There's a number of different recruitment efforts that must be undertaken by the employer. And if qualified applicants apply for the position, the employer has to interview them. So this is all part of the Perm process. Now, once the Perm process is completed, the recruitment and all the applications that are filed and so on and so forth, the goal is for the employer to get an approved labor certification from the Department of Labor. Once the employer obtains the labor certification, we can proceed to the next step. So this is all a part of step one, which is the Perm labor certification. Once the labor certification is obtained from the Department of Labor, you can move to step 2, which is the Immigrant Petition. Now, the Immigrant Petition is what's filed with USCIS. So step 1 is all between the employer and the Department of Labor. Step 2, the Immigrant Petition, now you're involving the foreign worker, the employer, and USCIS. So the Immigrant Petition, the form that's filed is the form I-140. And in this form, this is the form, you file this form with USCIS, and basically, along with this form, you're demonstrating that this foreign worker that you want to sponsor for this job meets all the requirements that you've specified that you were hiring for. So if you put 2 years of experience, for example, is required for this position, you need to demonstrate that the foreign worker that you're hiring possesses that level of experience. If you're stating that the position requires a master's degree, for example, you have to demonstrate that the foreign worker possesses that requisite master's degree. This is all done as part of the Immigrant Petition. Again, this petition gets filed with USCIS. Now, after that's done, we proceed to step 3, which is either an adjustment of status, which is a form I-485, or immigrant visa processing. As a side note, it's important to know that before you can proceed with either an adjustment of status or immigrant visa processing, you have to make sure that your priority date is current. Without getting into too much detail about this whole concept, it's important to know that there are certain limits on visa numbers, on visa availability. And certain countries, specifically China and India, have a lot of demand for these limited number of visas. And as a result of that demand, which exceeds the number of visas available, there's a waiting list, essentially, that builds up. China and India have very long waiting lists. So they have to complete step 2, the Immigrant Petition, and wait many years before they're eligible to adjust status or do immigrant visa processing. So it's important to know that you have to make sure that your priority date is current, meaning that it's there's a visa number available for you before you proceed to step 3. Another thing I'd like to mention, again, we're getting into some complex areas of immigration law, so if you have any questions about this, feel free to email me or message me directly, and I'll give you information on how to contact me towards the end of this video. But it's important to know that you have to wait for a visa number to become available. Now, there are many countries where there is not such a high demand for these types of visas, so visa numbers are available immediately. Meaning that the priority date is already current. If that's the case, the process can be a lot faster for you because you don't have to wait many years for a visa to become available. And in certain cases, you can file certain applications concurrently, and I'll get more into that right now. But so now, assuming we filed the Immigrant Petition and your priority date is now current, now you can do what's called either an adjustment of status or immigrant visa processing. If you're inside the United States in a lawful non-immigrant status, you can do an adjustment of status. If you're not in the United States, if you're outside of the United States, then you will likely do immigrant visa processing. Now, an adjustment of status is done by filing a Form I-485. This form is filed directly with USCIS. And that's how you do an adjustment of status. You file a Form I-485 with USCIS. Your dependents along with you will also file their own Form I-485. This form takes roughly, I would say 9 months to process, perhaps a little bit less or a little bit more. But that's how you do the adjustment of status. That's step 3. If you're outside of the United States, again, you'll do immigrant visa processing, and that's done. The form that you file for immigrant visa processing is a DS-260. And yeah, again, that's for when you're outside of the United States. Now, there's a ton more information that I would love to share with you about the employer-sponsored green card process. But I wanted to keep this video concise and just get to the facts that most people are probably interested in. But if you have any questions whatsoever that I didn't cover here, or anything that you might be a little bit confused about, I know there's a lot of information presented in this video that can be a little bit confusing. If you have any questions whatsoever, I want to invite you to schedule a consultation with my team. And in order to do that, I've put a special link in the description below. So if you go into the description of this video, you'll see a special link to schedule a free consultation with my office. You can click that link and you can schedule whatever time works for you. So feel free to do that. As always, I really hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please like the video. It really helps us a lot. Please subscribe to our channel. If you subscribe, you can get updated on all the videos that we're posting. We're constantly putting out US immigration videos. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video.